All right, this piece is called The Seeker. This is, once again, this is like one of the earlier of the series. I think it was like the third one within the biomechanical series that I did. All right, and it's utilizing this was just like the victory one that I showed. This one started off once again very dark, very blocked in once again, pulled out for the highlights in a lot of ways. Later on I would start to, like when I did Andromeda and stuff like that, I'm using a little bit more line work, kind of like bridging the gap between the very gesturally line drawing stuff, blacked in work, started to merge that in a little bit more with my pencil type of framework when it comes to drawings. And so those drawings slowly evolved and started to look a little bit different. But I always liked The Seeker because The Seeker was very true to the storyline that was going on in my mind, and it captured the kind of like dystopian, desolate aspects of the characters, their posture, and without even showing the environment, you can start to imagine what type of world that they exist in and what they could possibly be doing. Right? This is when I was working like on a textured paper. Can I change that? Can I change that? Is that 145 hot? Can I change the tighter one? Will it work? Or is it gonna go crazy on me? There you go. Because when I used to, when I did the earlier ones, they were on a very heavy textured canvas style paper, and so this is the original file. So let me just turn some things off. Get rid of that declected or the deckled edges. So anyway, and so you see, in this one I was just working with a bunch of muted tones, just to reflect the type of lighting in that world, right? And I really like it a lot. All these are like 30 by. I have all these in 30 by 40 prints on canvas strips, on gallery size canvas strips, stretcher strips. So they're really big. In my place, they're huge actually. So it's kind of fun seeing it at the original size. Matter of fact, when I drew it, just for some perspective, when I drew this, let's say, I was on a 17-inch, right? So it was this big when I drew it. It was this big, and then I would zoom in a little bit and zoom out, zoom in and zoom out, zoom in and zoom out like that. That's how big it was. So it wasn't like I was working on something like this big, and I'm going all like this, right? And without rambling about it too much, sometimes the simpler the tool is that you have and the smaller it is, sometimes you get a lot out of it. Because even though when I was working on it, it was like roughly this size, I don't know. There was less to consider. There was less landscape to consider, and it was just about zooming in and going, right? But it's cool to see it. It's cool to see it digitally this big. Print wise is exactly like this, and it's huge. So it's 30 by 40, or 40 by 60. It's 40 by 60. Yeah, no, 30 by. No, that's not 60 inches. That's 30 by 40, or something like that. All right, I'm looking at it right now. Anyway, so just look at it real close. The cool thing about looking at stuff digitally is you can see stuff up real close. I can see stuff that I was working on that half the time I don't even remember I even did it. Right, like the little dashes on his arms and stuff like that. Right, these are all the gesturally stuff that winds up working into the piece. Remember I said I like to hold on to a lot of original line work because it can suggest things that you don't necessarily have to fully illustrate. So we can take a look. Yeah, these are, because I started this series in 21 and in 22. 21, this is the next year, 22. So yeah. And this is around here. This is when I started falling in love with the work, because this is when I was this is as I started to work this is all intuitive, right? In other words, I had a feeling, and as I started to draw, then the story started coming out, and the character started to come forward, just as I showed in the other one, how it starts to come forward, the story starts to come forward. And when I work intuitively, I really, really, really fall in love with it, because unlike let's say if I'm working for a client or something like that, and I'm drawing something out, or designing something out, or building something out, or animating something out, or rendering something out, it's based on specifications that have to be known about beforehand. They've been already gone over. They've been gone through reviews. How many calls have had to happen in order for everything to get approved before it begins, and everything else like that. So everything's very hard coded, right, in the process. Boom, 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 right. And so the only thing you're left with is, in that case, is when it comes to appreciation, is did you hit your mark, right? Did you hit what the client asked you to do? In most of the cases, you always hit what the client asked you to do the first time. And you're just kind of trying to steer them back to the original idea like 3 phone calls later, right? But that's the only thing. Is like, did you hit your mark? And then it's like, okay, next, go on to the next client work, right? But working intuitively, like when you work on your own creative work, and I don't want to call this, and I know I got some professors and stuff, but I don't want to call this fine art. Okay, I don't want to call it fine art. I really don't like that term too much. Okay, because it feels too lofty. Like when somebody says, like if you look at something, like if I said, I don't want to offend anybody, but it's just, anybody who knows me knows my perspective on myself. Some people can show something like this, just this, and say it's a mechanical landscape of some sort, and then they justify it by deeming it as fine art. And when they deem it as fine art, it's supposed to be like it's above, it's somehow mentally or psychologically or technically or whatever beyond commercial art, beyond any studio art type of, or traditional art type of thing. So it's in a realm by itself, and to the point where fine art can't even be questioned. It's so high up that it can't be questioned, because then becomes, it's anybody's interpretation, right? I don't like to address it like that. I just think of it as if you're a professional artist, that means you work commercially, okay? Unless you like do images and then you sell them, which you're more commissioned. So commercial, when I say commercial, it's, hey, I need a design, right? I have a client who needs a design, can you do it? That's commercial, regardless of whatever the output is. The commissioned is, hey, I'm in my studio, I kick out X amount of these things, and I sell them to people who want to put them into their homes. Okay, so that's commission, right? Either way, you get to a point, even if you work on commission work, there are going to be pieces that you work on that you're like, you know what? I don't know if anybody's ever going to get this, but it's because that it's on a different level, but not from the fine art standpoint. Like no one's going to understand it. It's literally an evolution of what you have been doing that you think people wanted for their homes. Same thing for commercial art, where you're doing particular techniques and stuff like that, and because I draw on everything backwards, so let's look at it backward, right? Don't do that. Do not put marks on him. Same thing for commercially, where you're working on multiple techniques, or you're working within a certain guideline of the client and stuff like that. But then after a while, all of it becomes so intuitive to you that you can create work that's totally surpasses it, right? Totally surpasses it. It may not have, it may not require all the rudiments and details and all the stuff that the client originally wanted, because most of the time when the clients you're getting are not art directors, okay? They're speaking on behalf of the company in most cases, and they hire out, right? So some of the critiques or the requests that we come across, and most of the stuff is done in a group setting when it's reviewed. That's not how art works, right? But you get all this information, so you wind up putting all this information into the work, right? Okay, so everybody's little idea winds up being in the work. But when you're working commercial, when you evolve through your commercial techniques and you begin to do your own work intuitively, right? Then you start working on a higher level. Now, once again, but that higher level, I still go back to this thing, that higher level still communicates. It still deals with, let's say if you're doing commercial, it still deals with architecture, or it still deals with anatomy. It still deals with perspective. It still deals with whatever it is, whatever world that you've been artistically working through, right? That type of thing. Now, if you're a craft and you're doing commissioned work, then you can be steered by eventually by like what you believe your particular clientele like. But eventually, then you fit into a certain mold, right? But eventually you'll become so intuitive with those craft skills that you'll actually be able to branch into a higher perspective on it, right? But that perspective won't be ambiguous, and that's why I just kind of come out of that whole fine art term, because fine art, it throws ambiguity into art, right? So you see like a cool illustration, and you're like, "Dad, the illustration is bomb!" It really, because like once again, I was basically raised on like Epic magazine and Heavy Metal magazine. You know, when I was in high school, that was my main art teacher, Mr. Struthers. I mean, he used to inundate us. He used to bring to school and just, he'd have all of them stacked up, and we would just go through them and everything like that. And then he would draw like comic book characters right in front of our faces and everything like that. And we were, that's the world when I was like all of 15 years old. That's the world I was engaging in. So and he never mentioned the term like fine art. Never mentioned the term. He always talked about commercial art, illustration. I barely remember him ever mentioning the term fine art. So later on, when I learned about the term fine art, not modern art, but just the overall term fine art, I just saw it as ambiguous. Like, they don't have to say it. They don't have to deem art like that. Just keep it clean. Keep it like that's illustration, right? This is the abstract painting. Just give it a title. Don't deem it as like, oh, this is fine art, because I don't know. It just once again introduces ambiguity, right? But I would say the reason I even bring this up, because the work that I do, my collections are everything I've ever learned, everything I've ever experienced as an artist, as somebody born artistic, just being done at the highest level that I'm functioning at. And the highest level is not necessarily adding in even more detail, or even more clarity, or even more realism. Actually, it simplifies everything. Everything becomes more simplified, and things become more to the point, right? But it still has a foundation. It's not ambiguous. Anyway, enough of that. But you can see some cool stuff. So when you see it in reverse, you see some cool things. So you can see from the artist's eye, right? So when I draw stuff in reverse, so I'm looking at it from this angle, I'm always checking out the balance of things, right? As I'm cutting and everything like that, as you saw me work. And just so you see how the artist thinks. So when I look, this is what I look like, as you already know, when I work on stuff upside down. It should still flow. I can feel when it doesn't flow up when I look at it upside down. Something about the weight, right? If it doesn't look like it's sitting on the ceiling, I mean, this is kind of odd to think about. That's how my brain works. When I look at this upside down, it should look like it's pressing on the ceiling. That's how it should look. And if it doesn't look like it, if it looks like it's floating, it's not pressing on the ceiling, then there's something about the lighting, or something about the design structure that doesn't lean to the fact that this thing is grounded onto something here, right? So it's one thing to look at it from this perspective, right? It's one thing to look at this perspective, because as soon as you automatically go, oh, that's up, that's down, and so you're automatically going, okay, so obviously it's resting on the ground. But then if you flip that bad boy, then you may realize, oh no, it doesn't look weighted on the ground at all, right? So that's how it's achieved. It's not just from like, hocus pocus to it, but there is art, there is artistry to it, there is the artistic aspect, because most people don't think about this type of stuff. I used to think that people did. Okay, I used to think, oh my gosh. I remember I told you in my videos, I tell the story, like when I was in high school and stuff like that, I thought everybody thought the same way I thought. Right? Because I had other friends who could draw a little bit and stuff like that. But then I quickly found out that, oh no, only the ones in my art classes really thought the way I thought. Everybody else, no, they thought very differently. And so then, and that's like roughly like almost 90 something percent of the population does not think about that. They enjoy it. They like looking on at graphics or illustrations or movie or film or photograph. They enjoy looking at it. It communicates to them, but most of them don't have no clue of why it communicates to them, right? Or what was even done to make to even create that language that communicates to them. So it was just that was just a little lesson I had to learn, like the difference between being artistic and how you perceive the world and how you communicate information versus, I don't know, everybody else, right? Kind of a thing. And there's a whole bunch of everybody else, right? But that's not necessarily bad or good. Everybody has their role in life in one way or another. It's just important to understand whose role is whose, right? Okay, so I have a little, let's just look at the tubing because, right? A little show and tell, because this is like the third video, I think it is. So I just want to do a little show and tell just so people can see, we can get things into perspective a little bit more. But I like his boots, like his little angular boots. So you don't sit there and draw these boots. You don't go there and sit there and go, This is all just literally me just going like that. Just feeling it and going like that, and then cutting away and go, okay, that's the boot. And then here's the boot strap. So all you have is this line, and this black line, and this little open negative space. And then you go, hey, that looks like it could be a boot. That's as simple as it is. That's as simple as it is. But that means I'm already 10 steps down the line, literally in the overall flow of the overall creative flow, to know that if I add these two little lines compared to everything else, it's gonna look like a boot. See, right? I know. If you're not artistic, you're like, what the hell is he talking about? If you are artistic, you're like, yeah, man, talk more, man. Yeah, all right. Okay, well, far be it from me not to have a show and tell. Anybody knows me, I do show and tell. Anytime anybody's ever been taught by me knows I always demonstrate or show my stuff before I even show them technically how to do anything or draw anything on the board or on whatever it is that I do, right? I come from that world of showing, right? So I went and got, let me see if this will work out well for this video. This is like an experiment, another experiment, how well other stuff shows up on camera. So bear with me for the experiment. So let's push this back. Let's push that back. And let's pull in this, right? So hopefully you feel like you're in a seminar right now or a classroom setting. And I'm having a crazy hair day, so hold on. And my chair doesn't want to, I don't want to adjust the camera. So here we go. Let's see if this holds together. I can't get up to look at the camera, so hopefully everything will line up. So I have to truly be artistic at the very moment. So I came across, this is obviously just a small portfolio, right? So I came across this portfolio, not came across it, but this one's, I have them like kind of boxed up, my traditional stuff. I have not even opened it, right? All I did was dust it off a little bit, right? To give perspective, right? So, if you go on at myalienstudio.com, right, you'll see my current works and stuff like that. But obviously there's, that's not all my work, and I'm not trying to show all of my work at the same time. But it's important to get perspective of what you're looking at, or who you're talking to, or who's talking to you. And so let me peek through here. Oh, you guys are being for a treat because I haven't even opened this. God knows I haven't opened this. Oh my gosh, what's in here? Oh my gosh. So let's see if we can go from the beginning without destroying anything. Please just. All right. Okay. I'll do it like this. All right. Oh, you guys are in for some. Oh my gosh. There's other people's artwork in here. That's not my artwork. What in the world? Whose artwork is this? What is this? Oh wow, that's counterpart. All right. Oh, a whole bunch. Oh, wow. I didn't realize I have a whole bunch. Look at this. This is not even my art. This is not even my art, and it's in my portfolio. Oh, wow. Wow. All right, but it's good nonetheless. If it's in my portfolio, that means like it's for safekeeping. All right. Anyway, but this is. Hopefully you can see on camera. I can't adjust too much. So hopefully it'll show up, right? That was a surprise. I didn't know this stuff was in there. Cool. That's cool. That's cool as like memory. All right. So this is like the type of stuff I was doing in art school, right? At Howard, right? And this is like remember I said we had those crazy crits. And I had a hard time controlling like you wouldn't believe it. So like this is my whole egg and ribbon run, right? That's my whole egg and ribbon. But I had a hard time controlling like Conti crayon. This is me doing airbrush illustration there. This is got the Conti, right? This is some airbrushing, whatever it is. But this is what I do with, what was this one? Charcoal. So this is me and charcoal, right? So if you see me and charcoal, you're like, hey, you know what? He probably liked some heavy dark work, right? Type of a thing. Okay, I'm not gonna show every little thing, but this is just fun. Oh my gosh. Okay, for those Gen Xers out there, you know what these are. These are slides. That's right, baby. That's right. Hopefully they show up on camera. These are slides. That's right, slides of all my work. Back then, if you didn't have slides, you were done. Oh my gosh, look at all these slides. Oh, this is from master's degree. Okay, all right, I'm not gonna be too much longer. Let me see. Oh, because I'm already excited. Oh, this is more undergrad, right? So you see, right, now I got control over the crayons, right? So this is when I got control over the crayons, right? And this is all done from, anything you see is always done from a still. In other words, like we had shoes like laid out in the class and we had to draw them, so that's what I drew. Right, so here's me with crayons again. And this is when I gained control. The red and green, which I don't know why, as you see, these same two colors. For those who are following the Wild Walker, the acid version, you'll see the green and red, or the hot tone with the green. And you see me repeating that here. And this is way back in 1995. That I'm fixated. Matter of fact, I was fixated on red and green, right? I was fixated on red and green. This is more airbrush stuff, some more text stuff. This is that crazy illustration class, right? Remember I said we had these one day, in my video I said we had these one day drawings we had to do, and then we had like an assignment, one assignment per week too, and we had the class 3 times a week or something like that. This is from I think the 1 weeker or the take home one or something. I can't remember because everything was happening so fast. But this is me with pencils, right? So that's me with pencils. Okay, what's the date on it? Oh, I got an A minus. Oh my God. What did I get an A minus for? I don't know. Okay, that's 96. That's me in school. Okay. And I got an A in the class overall. I don't know what the A minus is for. Anyway, that's me drawing me. That's from the same class, sitting in class, right? Let me see, what else do I have? Oh, and these are some of the original photos that you guys have seen me put up, right? From my original Aline Studio photography. This is that's way back. Way back meaning like before the 90s. And you see how that, wow, I only know these are all out of the sleeves. Okay, I don't want to go too far into these. Let me see this. Oh, these are the photography. Let me see, one more. Do we have anything else fun to show? Oh, okay. The most difficult things. Oh, also this was the guy. Here's another A minus. This is the guy who literally said in class, this is the illustration professor, that, oh, when I asked him about like why did I get an A minus, meaning like, you know, in other words, what did I do wrong? And he says it was something to the fact of, well, an A means perfection and no one's perfect. He literally said something like that. I was like, what in the world is wrong? But that's before I discovered that he didn't even know how to schedule us properly, right? Anyway, the stuff I found difficult traditionally was doing basic stuff like this. Was doing basic Just doing literally basic little kiddie stuff like this. To think simply sometimes, oh my God, it was such a struggle. And to then use like crayon or something he was telling us to use on a flat surface, it was just so much stress on my hand. I was like, oh my God, you would think just the opposite. But I know for a fact, because I know for a fact that that's not unusual. Because I know of somebody else who they need to think, it's hard for them to think simplified. Their mind automatically goes to the complex. My mind does the same thing. It automatically goes to the complex. And so we both need time to play. We need time to play around, and actually get so we can actually begin to simplify our thoughts and work in a simpler manner. Okay, here's some other cool. All right, we just skip. Let me see. Man, these are more of the same for that class. These are one-dayers and stuff like that. So, all right. Here is, and then we just end off with this before I draw a little something. Hopefully you can see it. So this is a traditional portfolio. So this is 11 by 14. These are 11 by 14 prints. You've seen these in the videos from my original photography, right? This is actual black and white prints. This is from Aline Studio from '87, right? Okay. And so this is when you go into New York, you're literally walking in New York with this portfolio right here. Back in the days of real New York, with this size portfolio, 11 by 14 portfolio was considered significant. Technically, a model would walk around with like a 9 by 12. But a photographer, 11 by 14 means you were working big because you were printing at 11 by 14. Okay? And these are my prints since 1987, and look how well they held up. As far as, with the fix-it, not the fix-it, but with the chemicals and stuff like that. I'm very happy to see that they're not turning yellow or anything. We're not going to go through all these because these have already been shown like online. But now you see what the actual portfolio, this early days of photography. But please let this be the one I was looking for. Oh, no. No. Oh, it's not in this one. I was looking for my self-portrait, but it's not in this one. It's not in this one? No. Oh, well, I can show this, though. Let me see. It must be in the other portfolio. This is, last thing I'll show for perspective. When I talked about, SDF, so anybody's paying attention, we're talking about SDF. And I said in SDF uses heavy Boolean operations, right? When I started in 3D in 1996, the primary way to get complex shapes in commercial packages, not like when you're using like 3D Studio Max for architecture or something like that, the popularized thing that was happening was Boolean operations, right? But it didn't have any blending or anything like that. And this is 1996. And I always saw that as like, that's a great way because you're adding and subtracting to the form. So this is when I graduated in 98, right? So this was part of my 3D, so 1998, this is part of my 3D presentation, right? So you can see all of these have to do with Boolean stuff. Yep, and this is 1990, yeah, that's 1998. Well, I'll show that. That gives perspective, right? These are all the early days of 3D, right? And everything is made with Boolean operations, which is so funny because it's the same process I'm using with SDF. It's because SDF is all full-on Boolean, but it blends and stuff, right? But it gives perspective. Some people think because they're doing polygonal modeling or something like that, or that, or they're imitating some tutorial that they're, I don't know. It's cool to do that if you're learning, you're a student, right? But have some perspective. This is like, look, right? So this is all part of my senior show, 1998? 1998. I want to say 97, but 98. Oh, and then last but not least, these are paintings from the same show. So 3D is on video too. Then I have my illustrations and paintings. They're all heavily watermarked, sadly, because you can't see zipper head here, which is like this is like 6 by. This is an 8-foot painting, or 4 feet. Yeah, 4 feet by. This one is 4 by 6. 4 feet by 6. This is 4 by 6. 4 by 6. You can see the comic book style one, right? So you see all these. Now this is all in school. So nothing to do with Manhattan or nothing. This is all just school, and then last I'll just round it out. I don't know what these are. I'll just, I don't know, kind of scary to grab them. Oh, these are just original photographs from the original days. Yeah. Okay, I'll just show them to you. Original photographs. These are the original photographs. It's important for artists to hold on to their work properly. If you don't archive your work and stuff like that, then who else will, right? And then we have one more. This is an ad for the Village. That's from an ad for the Village Voice. And and more beautiful girls. Okay, so more beautiful people. Spliced together with a larger compilation here of stuff I haven't shown or hasn't come out the vault in a while, but it needs to be seen. So what you're looking at, that's the full size. I think that's like 18 by 24 design for the progenitor alien characters for Sid Meier's Alien Crossfire, right? So that's my original design. That's the actual drawing from the video recording I made when I was talking about that I won the position of designing the alien. That's the actual drawing they saw. So let me just flip it so you can see the scale of it, right? And I'm having a hair day, so hold on a second. So this is the actual size, right? This is the actual one from the easel. So this is mint. Here's another great one too. This is the I directed and created the closing movie for Alien Crossfire. No, not for Alien Crossfire. Sorry. I designed the ships in Alien for Alien Crossfire. The closing movie for Civilization 3 by Sid Meier's. This is the actual original storyboard that I drafted up. This is so we did two. This is the very first one. This is the very, very, very first one. Okay. This was like a fever. This was like a caffeine-driven fever dream when I did this one. Like I just sat down with like this big old thing of coffee and just ripped through the story, right? So, anyway, I try to hold on as much as possible because, particularly if it's hard stuff like real world stuff, because so much gets lost digitally. I've lost gigs and gigs and gigs of art over the years, and that's not cool. This is good retrospect. So prior to working in the game industry or starting my career in there, prior to going to school and everything like that, this is what I was drawing, right? So this is myself. This is what I did for Howard, actually. In order to get enrolled at Howard, at that time you had to present a portfolio and everything to get accepted into the fine art department. So this is one of the pieces I submitted. I created it for the submission. So this is my self-portrait. I believe at the time it was you had to submit a self-portrait, right? So this is my self-portrait in pencil. The most difficult thing about it is not the self-portrait, is wrapping it, right? As I said before, that I am not Mr. Tactile, okay? I have to get somebody else to wrap my stuff, but I actually wrapped this one, right? With acetate and stuff, but just making some fun of it, right? So it's done in the MC Escher style. So I literally was, drawing myself from a mirror and stuff like that. And so I just captured the whole moment in real time. Real time meaning not from a photograph. Which is a lot different, when you draw from photographs of somebody else's drawing versus drawing from something live, all right? Anyway, that's like traditional stuff. Studio, you call it. Okay. Here's some more production. So, if you ever look at the launch cinematic that's on my website in the game section for Civilization 3, you'll see the sequence with the stasis chambers, right? So this is my original design for the stasis pods. Obviously, this would be, matter of fact, this would be great SDF. They're actually, the design obviously more complex than what was actually it was pretty close. The pods were done in sub D. I did them in sub D for the stasis chambers within the rocket. But this is the actual design. So this is the actual drawing that was done in my office. And here's some because I did the opening movie. It wasn't published, but for Civilization 3, this was a concept for it. And so these are the actual storyboard for the concept that I drafted up. Okay. When is this brand? Oh, this is 2000, 2001. Okay, 2001. With a pen, right? Same thing, 2001. This is the actual alien ship design that I did for Alien Crossfire, which is the sequel to Alpha Centauri from Sid Meier's, right? So that's the actual one. That's the progenitor. So that alien design I showed. This is their actual ship. So you'll see it in the cinematic, right? The cinematic was created by Mondo Media, and I did the storyboard, and I did the alien design, and not just the design, but submitted the alien characters for them, head character stuff for them, as well as I did the ship design, right? Or the actual design for the ship, because they built the ship. I did the design for the ship. But at least this is one of the designs. The original one. Okay. Oh, here's more. This is a clean one? Yeah. Okay, here's the final progenitor design for the game. It's always good to, on my website I have it like a scan or something like that, or whatever it is. But it's good to see what the original looked like. Let me see. I hate doing this. Oh my gosh, I hate working with this stuff. Hate having to do this type of thing. But there's no other way for me to show it flat. Alright, okay. So this is the original progenitors. That's what they're called, the progenitors, the aliens. So that's the actual design that I did for my office when I set it in my office, and I have my easel and everything like that. So hopefully you can see it. Hopefully it shows up right. Okay. This is all what we call original artwork. Right? This is from 2001. Okay. Okay. Hopefully you can see it. Okay. It's important for artists to have as much work they hold on to, because when you look back as an artist at your life, you realize you spend more time doing art than you do anything else in life. And so if you don't collect it properly or archive it properly, then it's almost like you're not treating yourself right. That's the way it feels. Anyway, and these are what we call these the weeklies, right? Or one day drawings, weeklies. There was a class where, now this is when I was in school. There was a class that I could take where we were allowed to draw whatever we wanted. It was like an assignment. We would present twice a week or something like that. And so that's why they're not shaded or anything, just line drawing, right? And so I wound up having a whole collection of these guys. Let me see, make sure we can see this in camera. Yeah, like this is precise. This is my drawing for. It's turned into a painting actually. This is my drawing for. It's Poseidon. It's Poseidon and Aphrodite, right? So it's a mythical tale that I came up with where Aphrodite is sent to retrieve Poseidon's trident, but Poseidon falls in love with her and he won't let her leave the ocean floor, and so that kind of thing, right? Then you have more drawings like this. Let me see if is it showing up in camera? Yeah, it's showing up in camera. Good. Because they're back to front. Okay. More drawings like this. This is all drawings. These are all from school. So this is like sophomore year or something like that. 1990. When is it, Brent? 1995, around here. 1995 for Supergirl. She's not Supergirl, but for the Supergirl style type drawings. These are all constructed, so these are all what I call construction drawings. So none of these are None of these are from photos or anything weird like that. No BS like that, right? This was from an idea that I think I saw an episode of Oprah, and they were talking about bounty hunters and stuff like that on that episode. Matter of fact, I think it was one of the episodes they actually had like Dog the Bounty Hunter. But this is early days. Like no, I thought it was so interesting. So here's my little bounty hunter group, and then you have this. Then you have the summoning here. This summoning, right? And so you see my when I draw with pencil, I draw more, very more traditional when it comes to anatomy, right? Now I got away with, I got into the more doll baby and the more elfish look and stuff like that. But but foundationally, I draw like that, right? In other words, accurate anatomy, and all this other stuff. Here's some shading stuff. Here's some more drawing and shading and drawing and having fun creating stuff. All the same age, same period of time. This is all school. But no one sees it, right? Because it's too big to scan, and it's not related. Oh, here you go. And it's not related to anything digital, right? And here's I don't want to flip this one. This I've shown it in other ones. This is some comic book pencils. So it's like you guys get a showing without getting a showing, right? Can I push this way? Yeah. Let me see. Will that show up? Yeah, that'll show up. Without breaking anything. Okay, so that's some pencils, right? Real pencils. Okay. Actually, real pencils that have been, that's the actual pencil. That's the actual ink signature. Okay. Just more line drawing type stuff. This is like the witch thing where Salem. It's like I watched a movie on Salem witches, and so this was this whole little composition I want to come up with. This is another thing I never was really fun with. This is way before. Like I love working with like sumi brush stuff now, right? But this is way before, right? All these turned into painting. This is a painting. All these are paintings. This is another Catwoman feline-y kind of thing. She turned into a painting. As well as this one. Now this just has some stuff on the Mylar. It's not on the actual picture, right? This is when I'm learning how to try to draw multiple characters within one scene and all that other stuff like that. I was trying to do that. And then here's the Warlock drawing, right? Right. This is all 1995. Yeah, 1995. Okay. And let me see. Oops. Hopefully nothing got popped up there. What else do I have in here? This bag of tricks. This is like one portfolio. I got boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of stuff. Oh, I don't know if I want to take these out. Okay, I'll take these out because they're on camera, so might as well. Whoa. What's in this one? Because once I put this back up, I don't know when I'm going to take it back out again. So it's like you get a chance to visit me at my studio. So here's this beautiful ink job done my friend Mel, right? Let me just put them over here. Here's the originals. So this is his ink. This is his original ink. You can actually see it, right? That's just a Xerox copy underneath it. Here's his original ink of my pencils. He does beautiful stuff, man. And here's what the actual piece would look like published, right? At the proper scale and everything. Right? Did we even date this? This is before. This is not no lie. This is like that is 1993. This is way before school. It's way before school. Way before school. So it's like 1993, something like that. Dates are important. These are 1980. Oh yeah, this is my first collection, right? And this one got water dripped on it. And you see the papers now fading for me. So this is stippling, right? This is stippling. Going like this. I'm literally I don't draw first. I just take the fountain pen and I just go da 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 da. And I usually start with the eye, and I work my way out. These are done from photographs, like a composed photograph, and I go da 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 da. This early stage. This is right after the military, 1987. Same concept. I think I was the one inking on this one. Same concept, but different angle. And I was like, Mel, help me out, Mel. I can't ink for crap. He was like, oh man, no problem. That's when art was cool back then. People would help each other out and everything like that. I have the original pencils somewhere in here. These are all the papers. Oh, we got so much paper. More comic book. This is my comic book phase. More copies. This is Mel testing how he's going to approach what I drew. And where's my pencils? Maybe not in this one. No, it's not in this one. It's not in this batch. Maybe it is. Maybe I just. Oh, because the other. Well, I didn't. No, I showed the original pencils. Oh wow. These are more sticklings. Oh wow. Oh, okay. All right. I showed the original pencils because they go all the way back to the original pencils are here. Here. So these are the original pencils. All right. All right. Yeah. Since we're on that same topic all over again. Yeah. And these are the original pencils, right? Now, it's important to note because during when I was growing up artistic, right? So this is 80s and 90s. So that was a quasi period of time where you weren't, the days of like Frank Frazetta, Boris Vallejo, oil painting illustrations were really like in the 70s and stuff like that. And then Image Comics kicked off in the 90s, right? That's what a lot of this. So Image Comics kicked off in the 90s, which kind of brought everything back around again. But outside of comic book stuff, it was a really weird in between time for artists, and this thing called graphic design started coming about, which wasn't digital yet, but it was literally just copying and pasting crap. So it was a weird time of where you need to experiment because there wasn't the industry didn't seem so solid. I mean, you had like book cover illustrations and stuff. So for me, I was trying to become as skilled as possible with all the avenues of art that I felt akin to. And then once while I was in school, which is why I'm glad I went to school, because school exposed me to a lot of different avenues versus what I had already experienced. And once I was in school, that's when actually school then introduced me to 3D. Did it? No, school didn't introduce me to 3D. It was literally movies that introduced me to 3D in the 90s. But my school allowed me the venue to be able to experiment with 3D, utilize it for some of my classes and stuff like that, which then of course launched my career, and also gave me my foothold in what would become the medium of the day kind of thing. And this medium called 3D has been going on ever since, right? But anyway, that's a quick one. And I'll show them because once I put these back up, I don't like them getting damaged. They need to get framed again. They're not framed. So we'll just call this video just be called retrospect. These are all stipplings. Once again, see, they got damaged. Somehow, after moving how many times, they got, some of them got damaged. Right, this is the actual one, actual piece, right? 1987, all stippling, no drawing, meaning no line drawing ahead of time. And these are the ones that launched my career, right? Because this, what you see here, the stippling pieces particularly, there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but the stippling pieces particularly, that's what won the award, and that's what got my foothold into my first art job in Manhattan. Here's some 1989 stuff, more stippling. So when I say I'm technical, I can get real technical, right? Real, you know, like down to the granular little thing, right? More like that, right? So anyway, hopefully that'll help other artists understand the value of the work. For others out there, it'll help you understand more about myself. And for everybody else, hopefully you're entertained. All right.